welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast, fantasy football for the average Joe. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Frankie, how are you, my man?
Good, brother. How are you doing, man? After a crazy week 3.
God, that was nuts. Did you have all those no-name guys that scored all the fucking touchdowns? Because
of course I did not.
Of course I did not. Was that insane? How many backup running backs, how many third-string receivers, backup tight ends scored touchdowns this week? You got to be shitting me, man. I couldn't believe it.
Nuts. It was
blew my mind.
Crazy, dude. It was absolutely crazy.
After week 2, we had all those blow-up monster weeks where guys were just, 200-point weeks, 180-point weeks. This week, high point man was like 140 points, 130 points. I mean, it was just in our leagues anyway. Yeah, it was nuts, man. It was crazy. So how you doing, brot? How was the weekend? How'd your teams do? You took a beating.
I took a beating in one league. I
took a beating.
Dude, I mean... It was a close game. It was a 6-point game. So it wasn't, but my team itself, Dalvin Cook, he went down, had a few others, that we're going to mention that just didn't perform well, John. I mean, but then I, flipped to the other league, and in the super flex, I did well. And so it was a flip flop kind of in between type of week for me, man. How about yourself? How did you shape up?
I bent over and took it straight in the ass.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, I lost close. They were close games. They came down to the Monday night games, but still, Jesus, it sucks when you lose, man. I mean, it was just one of those weeks where it was just kind of like, meh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, a bunch of guys. You'll even see in the ice segment, Fire and Ice. I mean, wasn't a ton of guys that really blew up. There wasn't a ton of guys that completely shit the bed. It was really just a lot of just average fantasy play. A lot of scores that hovered right around the 10 points and such. So nothing great, nothing terrible. We do have some injuries though, and that was real brutal. In fact, you know what? Why don't we get into that right now? Let's talk about some of this. Let's get to the news, man.
The season 2,000 yards that you just don't expect. Absolutely lost. Flip out.
News and notes.
Nice. Thank you to Anthony Stone for the news and notes drop. Thanks, brother. All right, let's get to some of these injuries. I'm going to bounce around to the news here on our sheet. Let's check this out. Sterling Shepard, Monday night, tears an ACL. He will be gone for the season. I don't know what else to do. He was the only one that I could even think about starting with any confidence whatsoever on that New York Giants offense. Anybody you see that might step up, maybe a Richie James as a dart throw. What do you think with that?
Yeah, man,
New York Giants receiver team.
John, it's a great question. I mean, what really stuck out to me on that team was Kenny Golladay goose egging again. Even after Sterling Shepard went down, he's irrelevant, and it's wild. So maybe Richie James, maybe Kadarius Toney, probably a mix of those guys, but it's going to be Saquon Barkley. We're going to see a heavy and often dose of him, man.
Yeah, it's a wait and see. I mean, I think he's the only person on that team right now that is at all fantasy relevant that you can actually start. All right, moving on here. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the guy's been on goddamn fire. The sun god is lighting the world on fire. He's got an ankle injury. Test came back okay, but he's probably going to miss a little bit of time, so you're going to have to keep an eye on that. I'd be shocked if he was out there this week. Not very likely. We'll give a couple of names of who might be able to help with that team as well, with Amon-Ra going down. On the same team, DeAndre Swift, shoulder sprain. Doesn't require surgery, running back for the Detroit Lions. This guy's also been lighting the world on fire. He looks really, really good this year. He's going to miss time. So keep an eye on that. He certainly will miss this week, I would imagine, and it could be longer. So definitely keep an eye on that. Dalvin Cook. Big one, first-round guy, Dalvin Cook, day-to-day with a shoulder injury. They're saying he could play this week, which is very crazy. They're going to put on a brace, the device. Remember the device for Dalvin Cook? Everybody was scared to start him last year. He did the same. He had the same issue with his shoulder. Popped it out, put on the device, they called it, and the son of a bitch came out and had the best game of his career pretty much. It was crazy. Yeah. Another injury here, quarterback for the New England Patriots, Mac Jones, believed to have a high ankle sprain. He was in a lot of pain. He's going to miss some time. There's no question about that. Don't know how long exactly, but, the high ankle sprains, it could be up to a month. So that's going to hurt. Maybe, right? Maybe not really. Brian Hoyer the Destroyer is the backup. He's going to step in. Do you see this really making much of a difference to the fantasy value of this team? To the receivers?
Not really, John. I think by the way the Pats were throwing the ball, it was usually one guy that would kind of uptick for the week. So like we saw Devontae Parker this past week, the prior week we saw Nelson Aguilar. Before that we saw Jacoby Myers. And so it's usually going to be one guy. I think what it's going to do, it's probably going to help out some of the running backs here.
Yep, I agree with you as well. So Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson's get a little bump here, and I think we're going to talk about some of those guys a little bit later. Another big injury running back here. This one hurts too. David Montgomery. He's day-to-day with an ankle and knee injury. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of information has come out on that, but it doesn't sound good. He's going to miss some time. Mm-hmm. Again, we don't have a lot of information this early in the week. Khalil Herbert stepped in to take over his duties and was the number one running back on the week. So Khalil Herbert is set to start next week. So we'll talk about that on the waiver wire, I'm sure here. Dak Prescott, quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, targeting a Week 5 return is what they're talking about. That blows my mind, man. When they were talking about 4 weeks being out, I thought they were out of their goddamn minds, but it might actually happen. The stitches were removed. He's going to be, you look at his next couple of games here he's got coming back if it's Week 5. He's going to return at the Rams. I'd probably hold off on that one, And then he's at Philly. Then he plays Detroit, Chicago, and has a bye. I would have probably kept him out until that Detroit game. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah. Keenan Allen looking to return to practice this week. So look to hopefully get Keenan Allen back in your lineup, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's see here. AJ Green left the game with a knee injury. Not really fantasy relevant. Hopefully you didn't have to start AJ Green. Chris Godwin, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, likely to continue to be out this week. He's not quite ready. It's looking like Julio Jones may play. We know that game, and until I know for sure he is going to be in, I'm not putting him in, man. He's going to have that questionable tag pretty much the whole season. Jacoby Myers, wide receiver for the New England Patriots, should be good to go this week. He missed last week, which is why Devontae Parker went off. There's not really enough volume in that offense for multiple people to really be fantasy relevant in the receiver room. Jacoby Myers is the one for that team. Things are going to shift, though. Things are going to change. I would hold off starting any of them because of the change in quarterback to the Destroyer. Hunter Renfrow could return this week. That's good news. Keep an eye on that. That would be nice to see. Joe Mixon left the game with an ankle injury. Right now they're saying he is going to play Thursday night, but he could be a little banged up. You might want to look at Samaje Perine on the waiver wire as well. All right, Frankie, you know what time it is now, baby. Let's get to Frankie and Johnny's Song of Ice and Fire. I like it. Why are we drinking water and your little tea? Are you drinking tea there? Is it a little
I'm drinking
bedtime?
Coffee, man. I'm drinking
coffee.
Some pumpkin coffee right now. Really spice up my soul. And, just got to keep it going.
It's late at night for you to be drinking coffee, man. We're recording this late.
It is. So I plan on being up for a fucking while, John.
Well, let's go, baby. Let's go. All right, let's talk about ice. Who is on ice this week? We had a lot of just mediocre performances, but we had some that really, really sucked. Frankie, why don't you lead us off here on who's leading the ice charge?
John, there were definitely some guys on ice this week, and I'm going to start with somebody who was a massive disappointment and actually fumbled on the 2-yard line and should have scored, would have completely flipped around his stat line. John, I'm talking about Aaron Jones. He was 12 attempts rushing for 36 yards. He caught 3 receptions on 4 targets for 11 yards and a fumble on the 2 or 3 yard line, which, by the way, equates to 3 points. And I don't want to say anything, but he might be the reason why I lost one of my leagues this week. So Aaron Jones, go fuck yourself. You are frozen solid.
Aaron Jones, I share that sentiment. I had you on one of my losing teams this week as well. All right, I'm going to get to a quarterback here. Matthew Stafford had a really, really rough time. He's been a little up and down here. 18 for 25, 249 yards passing, no touchdowns. 1 sack. 9 points out of your quarterback. You need a lot more than that. Let's get to another quarterback. This guy, I'm sorry, man. At this point, I don't think you can start this guy until you start to see some chemistry going on here. Russell goddamn Wilson.
Crazy.
20. I don't get it. I know teams are going to. I knew it was going to take a little bit of time to gel, but come on, man. 20 for 33, 184 yards passing, no touchdowns, 4 sacks. 5 points? Come on now. He was supposed to be lighting the world on fire here, man. All right, Frankie, why don't you get to a couple of receivers here that shit the bed? Some big names.
Some big names here. So I'm going to start off with probably one of the largest names, if not the largest name, JJ, Justin Jefferson. Frozen solid, John. 3 catches on 6 targets, 14 yards, no tutties. That equates to 3 points, John. And what's crazy, man, is we kind of saw a very similar stat line last week with Devontae Adams, except for he had a touchdown. So I don't know what the hell's going on with some of these receivers, man, but it's been brutal. And to lump it in with this other guy for this week, not just JJ, we have Tyreek Hill, who went from a blow up, hotter than hell type of week last week to 2 catches on 4 targets, 33 yards, John. 4 points for Tyreek Hill. Frozen solid, man.
Unbelievable. I mean, these guys go from fire one week to ice the next week. I mean, it happens. Here's another guy that I've been waiting on. I'm starting him in my flex in one league, and I'm waiting for it to happen, and it just hasn't yet, man. I'm kind of worried that it might not at this point. I'm talking about Allen Robinson. 2 for 5 for 23 yards, 3 points out of Allen Robinson. Is this going to get better? What's going on here with Allen Robinson and Matthew Stafford?
John, I think it will, and I'm optimistic about it because I think it's just due to the nature of the way Matt Stafford's played. Honestly, man, if he's not really keying in on Higbee at this point in time or Cooper Kupp, he's struggling. I mean, we saw Allen Robinson do fairly decent last week and put together a nice stat line with over 50 yards and a touchdown, but man, this is now, 2 out of 3 weeks to where it's been pretty bad. And then obviously you incorporate in last season to where it was a complete bust. So I'm not ready, especially after I jumped the gun, and I'm going to talk about it on one guy a little bit later, but I'm not ready to hit the panic button on Allen Robinson with a pass-heavy offense and that of the Rams.
Yeah, okay. Darren Waller. The Walrus, tight end for the Las Vegas Raiders, struggled last week, man. 3 for 5, 22 yards, 3 points for Darren Waller. Not what you wanted when you draft a tight end that early. All right, who else we got here, bud?
John, we got a running back here for the Arizona Cardinals, James Conner. He had 13 rushes for 39 yards. He then had 3 catches on 5 targets for 18 yards, which equates to 7 points. Yeah, I would say he's on ice. Yeah, it's not a great showing. I would say he did a little bit better than some of these other guys, but man, the Cardinals as a whole need to get their shit together, man. They have just not performed well as a team. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks for sure with this squad.
Yeah, I mean, that's a stat line I'd look at, and it's a disappointing week for a guy like Kareem Hunt.
Exactly.
Not a James Conner. James Conner is a 3-down bell cow back working for a fast-paced offense. You drafted this guy in the 2nd round. He's a lot of people's RB1s in most cases. That's not what you want. 7 points.
Nope.
All right, let's get to another guy here. Brandon Cooks, 2 for 7, 22 yards, 3 points. I feel like this stat line is like straight across the board, like 2 for 5, 2 for 6 for 20-some yards, 3 points. It's everybody all around here. Johan Dotson, the rookie sensation. He's been the number 1 rookie over the first 2 weeks. Week 3 was not his week, Johan. 2 for 8 for 10 yards, 2 points. That's a rough one. I don't put anything into that other than the Washington Commanders. The Manders got manhandled. They just got absolutely destroyed. So hopefully better things to come for Johan. All right, let's talk about another big-time tight end that our cousin Dennis probably has both of these guys on his team since he drafted 3 of them. Talk to me about George Kittle, Frankie.
Yeah, man. George Kittle. He had 4 catches on 5 targets, so a nice target share, but 28 yards, dink and dunks here, which equate to 4 points, John. Just not getting it done when you're drafting a tight end of that caliber, potentially in the 2nd or 3rd round. So, yeah, George Kittle definitely frozen solid this week, man.
Yeah, and I want to bring up this other guy, too. Again, it's not – the week didn't absolutely kill you, but I put him on here because, again – like James Conner, it's a 2nd-round running back that you expect big things out of. Javonte Williams, 15 for 58, 3 for 58 yards rushing, 3 for 5 receiving for 2 yards, 7 points. I mean, the only reason he had 7 points is because he had 3 catches, basically. It would have been a lot worse. But, man, this is tough. We expected a lot of big things out of him, and to draft him in the 2nd round, it's exactly like last year. It is 50-50 down the goddamn middle, exactly like it was with Melvin Gordon. So I'm worried he was overdrafted here big time. Without an injury to Melvin Gordon or some shift in their offensive scheme, they're struggling right now. Yeah, he's not going to pay back his draft capital. Another guy on the same team, on the Broncos, Denver Broncos, Jerry Jeudy, same thing. 2 for 6 for 17 yards, 2 points. It just seems to be the line for everybody. All right, this is a guy you were trying to unload like crazy last week, sending trade offers out to the entire league. Talk to me about the next guy.
Yeah, I'm talking about a guy, Alvin Kamara, guys. He had 15 rushes for 61 yards. He had 2 receptions on 7 targets, but only 12 yards, and he fumbled. So this is 5 points there. And so, John, I was trying to offload him. And the more and more I thought about it, I almost did get 2 trades done, and I pulled back. The reason being is because I think there's a lot still here with Kamara, and I'm not 100% ready to let go. And for those that are in the same boat, I feel like Kamara is in a little bit different situation than that of a Javonte or even, probably similar to that of like an Aaron Jones. And I say that, John, because when you're getting 7 targets and you're just the quarterback's just missing you at that point, and you're still getting 15 to 20 touches, I only see this eventually coming to fruition. They need to get him the ball more. So I'm definitely not hitting the panic button. Definitely open for selling him as well, but it has to be for the right price. And this isn't a guy that I feel like for those of you like, hey, do I need to offload him quickly or wait? I think this is a guy that unless it's for the right price, John, I think you need to wait a little bit and really see how this unfolds.
All right. Okay. Here's a guy that I just don't think you could start at all right now. This guy's on ice. He's been on ice, and I don't honestly see it getting better. Maybe you can change my mind with it, Frankie. I'm talking about DJ Moore, wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. He had 2 carries for 13 yards, and you're like, oh, good. He's getting involved as a running back as well. He had 1 catch for 6 targets for 2 yards. He had 2 points, man. 2 points. This is the wide receiver 1 for the goddamn Carolina Panthers. What's going on with DJ Moore?
It's honestly, it's the play of Baker. And I hate to say it, it's Baker not reading correctly. This is what drove us nuts in Cleveland.
We saw
it's just, it's just one of those things, man. So DJ Moore, yeah, man, I'm a little bit nervous for him.
Yeah. And Jimmy G. All right, here's the big waiver pickup. He went down. Let's get back in. Let's see what you're made of here. You $6 million backup quarterback.
Woo!
Jimmy G. 18, tough day for those guys. 18 for 29, 211 yards passing with a touchdown. Had an interception, had a fumble, 4 sacks. He just wanted to see how many stat categories he could get something in, I think. 6 total points for Jimmy G. That's not great, man. That's not great. Good. Not when you have a quarterback. You need that. These guys on ice, Frankie, today's Ice and Fire is brought to you by Cheech and Chong. Up in Smoke. It just reminds me of that scene where he tells him, oh, it's going to be okay here. Take these. You got to chill out, man. Just take this and relax. He goes, oh, no, wait, don't take those, man. Don't take those, man. That's what it feels like having these guys on your team. Then you start fucking wigging out because you took too many drugs. Enjoy.
I can't breathe.
What's your man?
I can't breathe, man.
We're here. Hey, man. Hey, I got something to mellow you out, man. You're just freaking out. Here.
I never smoked no shit like that before.
Take these,
What?
man. Take these. This'll
What is
mellow you
this?
out, man.
What is that, man?
Let's take them, man. Oh. Hey, don't take those, man.
What?
I almost gave you the wrong shit, man.
Hey, man, I already took them, man.
Whoa.
Hey, what do you mean? Whoa.
Wow, man.
Hey, what was that shit, man?
You just ate the most acid I've ever seen anybody eat in my life.
Hey, man, I never had no acid before, man.
Please, I hope you're not busy for about a month.
Shit, I'm gonna die, man. That stuff's gonna make me die,
Oh,
man.
No, that's good acid.
Hey, man, I never had it before, man. That's gonna
Hey, it
make me
won't
die.
hurt
Well,
you,
it's gonna
man.
make me freak out,
Nah,
man.
man.
I seen those guys that walk around my neighborhood had too many acid, man. Their head looked like a
Okay,
pumpkin like that,
hey,
man.
mellow out,
They really
relax,
like
man.
that. What are you like?
Hey, mellow out, man.
I feel like that was us talking to each other on Sunday. It's like, hey, mellow out, man. You know, you started who? Oh, shit.
Exactly.
Love that shit, man. All right, let's get to fire. Who was on fire this week? We had one guy heads and tails above everyone else this week. Talk about him, Frank. He's making a run for the MVP, and I can hear the just cha-ching, cha-ching. The price tag just keeps going up. Talk to me.
Lamar Jackson. Big trust, right? He was 18 for 29, 218 yards. Not one, not three. He had 4 tutties throwing the ball. He did throw 1 pick, but here's where he continues to shine. 11 rushes, 107 yards rushing, and an additional touchdown. John, I am on that freaking train of Lamar, and I hope to God that he wins MVP and says a big F you to the Ravens for not paying him. I am on fire with you, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, he's winning people weeks on his own right now. It's like having it's like having the best quarterback and the best running back on your team at the same time. It's really crazy. All right, this next guy on fire. I almost made him my champion. It was between him and my true champion, Trey Lance, who went down for the year. But I've drafted this guy. He's carrying me right now. I love it. Jalen Hurts, quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, just lighting the world on fire right now. Isn't it amazing what happens when they surround a good quarterback, a young quarterback with talent? It's incredible, right? 22 for 35, 340 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. And you're like, oh, man, well, that's great, but it's his legs, right? He had 9 rushes for 20 yards. So he did this through the air. So he's like just saying, fuck all the haters is basically what he's saying. I can throw 340 yards and 3 touchdowns as well. 31 points for Jalen Hurts. It hurts so good, baby. All right, talk about another quarterback on here, Frankie, that led the charge. Good to see him on this list.
Good to see him on this list. It's always good to see sunshine. Trevor Lawrence. Look at him, man. We were afraid. Really rough rookie year. I would have to say it's probably because of the shit-stained situation he was in with Urban and everything else. Now you put Doug Peterson and give him some more weapons. Trevor Lawrence looks great. 28 for 39, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns. John, that's 31 points for Trevor Lawrence against the Chargers. He torched them. Well done, Trevor Lawrence, baby.
They're proving teams wrong, man. The Jaguars are not the team that we thought they were. They're not the team of the past. They're playing some good football, no question.
Yep.
All right, this guy, the number 1 running back for the week, Khalil Herbert, the backup running back for the Chicago Bears. David Montgomery went down early in the first quarter. Khalil Herbert came out and just lit the world on fire. 20 rushes for 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 12, 32 points for Khalil Herbert. Great job. We're going to be talking about him a little bit later as well. Talk to me about some receivers here, Frankie.
John, I'm going to lump in 2 receivers here, but I do want to touch on one guy for a second, and that's Devonta Smith coming out flaming hot with 8 catches on 12 targets, 169 yards, 1 touchdown. What does that equate to? Let me tell you, 28 points in fantasy football, guys. This dude, I was one of the guys after week 1 when he had 0 catches, looked like absolute trash. Jalen Hurts didn't even look his way, to a little bit of a spike in week 2, to an absolute explosion in week 3. I hit the panic button too soon, and I'm willing to admit that. And here's the thing. I like this dude a lot moving forward. I think that now we're starting to see some synergy between him, Hurts, and how he's able to operate with A.J. Brown as well. So, John, I love what this kid is bringing. Ex-Heisman Trophy winner, bringing the Heat on fire this week. John,
I'm with you on that. Real quick, I want to touch real quick on Devonta Smith, because I did the same thing. I have to apologize to Devonta Smith. Week 1, if you're not getting the looks, it's just one of those things, right? If you're not getting the opportunity, I don't want you on my team.
Yep.
I think what has happened now, he's a great number 2 receiver.
Yes.
And now that they're zeroed in on A.J. Brown, who's been a serious stud this year, he's getting open. He's getting single coverage. He's hard to cover in single coverage. So I think this could be really fun this year. I think you're going to see it. We've seen A.J. Brown blow up, and then we've seen Devonta Smith blow up. I think there's going to be a middle ground there somewhere. But I think both of these guys are going to be startable. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, Devonta Smith's really good. He's really small, but he's really good, man.
Really
Talk about
good.
An athletic freak. Yeah, he's crazy. All right, keep going with receivers.
The second receiver here, John, Mac Hollins. Does anybody know who that is? Have you ever heard that dude? Where the fuck's he from? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Mac Hollins for the Raiders. 8 catches, 10 targets, 158 yards, and a touchdown, 27 fantasy points. That is not Devontae Adams. That is not Hunter Renfrow or Darren Waller. This is a guy, Mac Hollins, on fire, John. Unbelievable.
Yes, he is. He filled in for Hunter Renfrow this week. So
Sure
if Hunter Renfrow's out, get Mac Hollins on your team and start him. Absolute 10 targets. Jesus Christ. All right, let's give some love to some tight ends here. We never really do that on Fire too much. Mark Andrews, Mandrews, 8 for 13, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns, 25 points out of your tight end. You got to love that. And how about a little Browns love too, huh? The number 2 tight end on the week, David Njoku, 9 for 10, 89 yards and a touchdown, 19 points. Gotta love that, man. That really is just about it for Fire. There weren't a ton of guys. There were some guys that scored in the 20s and all of that, but I don't consider that Fire. I consider that smoking a little bit,
Yeah.
Well, these guys, you got these guys on fire. You get, you've got Lamar on your team. You picked up Khalil Herbert and you started him. You're just you don't give a shit about anything, man. You can get pulled over and you're just going to giggle and laugh and just fuck with the cop. You don't care at all, man. This is you, baby.
It's cool, man. I never had it before, man. I didn't think it was going to be like this, man.
What's the problem, son?
Hey,
Roll down your window.
What? Keep on knocking, but you can't come in. Hey, man, don't man. The cops, man. Wait, I got to roll down the window, man. There you go. Where's the anchor? How much did it weigh? I don't know. I forgot. You forgot? I saw that on the movie. I gotta get the
Can I see your license, sir?
What?
Your license. Where's your license?
It's on the bumper, man, back there, man.
No, I mean your driver's license.
Oh yeah, I got my driver's license, man. That just sounded so real funny, man. Hey, your mama.
I wish that was me this week. It wasn't, though. It was the guys who played against me. No. And that's you digging for your license and laughing and fucking with the cop. And that's me in the corner just over here eating all the drugs. I love it. All right, man. Let's get to the waiver wire and see who you've got for us to help us out with some of these injuries.
Can you dig that? How about, girl, you couldn't bite my wire?
I just had to throw in some doors there, man. You
You have to.
All right, Frankie, bite my wire. Who's going to help us out here on the waiver wire?
All right, John, the first guy, actually, I'm going to lump two in together because it's going to be two running backs, guys. There's not a whole lot on the waiver wire to really choose from this week, but there really is a few standouts, and it's those two running backs at the top, Khalil Herbert and Jamal Williams. Khalil Herbert, John, is playing at New York Giants. Last week, we talked about his massive blow-up. I think there's a crazy opportunity, especially with how Tony Pollard and even how Zeke performed. I could see Khalil Herbert stepping in here in a run-first type of offense and really exploding. So, guys, feel free to spend some money on this guy. I think it's going to be worth it. John, the other guy that I just mentioned, Jamal Williams, again, he will be playing against Seattle Seahawks. Last week, he had 87 yards rushing on 20 rushes. He had 2 touchdowns as well when Swift went down. So if Swift, which looks like he's trending to being down, John, I'm going to be taking this dude off the waiver 100%. And damn near, I'm playing this guy this week. Actually, both of those guys. So I wanted to lump those two in because those are really the superstars of the waiver wire this week. John, we have a couple others that I wanted to mention too. Matt Collins, again, they're going to be playing Denver this week. We talked about his blow up. It does appear that Hunter Renfrow will be playing or is on pace to play. If that's the case, he's still worth picking up, stashing, and just holding on to him just in case.
Oh, yeah.
John, the next guy I do want to hit on for a second, and I want to throw this back to you. Romeo Doubs, okay? Mm-hmm. He's going to be playing against New England. He had 8 receptions on 8 targets. He had 73 yards this past week. Now, Sammy Watkins was out. Christian Watson was out. But Alan Lazard wasn't. And so now we're starting to see, are we seeing, this is what I wanted to ask you. Are we starting to see Romeo Doubs kind of creep into that maybe receiver one on the Green Bay Packers is what I mean. Is that possible?
It's possible. It's still pretty early to see that, but it's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to spread the ball around. He's going to throw the ball a lot, and he's going to spread it around. So I think if Doubs and Lazard are on the field together, I think they're both going to be, fantasy viable. I think they're both worthy of a flex play. And it's just Aaron Rodgers' nature. He's going to spread the ball around, throw to the open man.
Throw it to somebody, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
John, the last guy I wanted to mention too, again, guys, waiver wire, deep pool here, especially with the potential of Thursday night rolling around. Samaje Perine here, again, with Mixon banged up. They're playing Miami Thursday night. There's already tensions between Eli Apple and Tyreek Hill. There's mad shit talking going on, right? He had 47 yards rushing last week. He had 2 receptions for 14 yards and a touchdown when Mixon was out. So he might be an interesting play if we start seeing Mixon kind of nursing this injury here. So yeah, Samaje Perine might be worth throwing a little bit of money at.
All right, sounds good. All right, thanks for the waiver wire help, Frankie. Let's get to our hit it's and quit it's. Oh, yeah. I want you to hit it and quit it, baby. All right, let's take a look at last week's hit its for us, Frankie. We're going to start there. Your hit its were Kirk Cousins with 21 points versus Detroit and Jalen Waddle with 17 points versus Buffalo. Nice hit its there, Frankie. I like looking back and seeing that you did well. Yeah. Mine were Drake London, who got 13 points at Seattle, and David Montgomery. Now, I have this, and this is a parentheses here. An asterisk next to this, please. I said David Montgomery. David Montgomery got hurt in the first quarter. His backup comes in, Khalil Herbert, and scores 32 points. So I was right, but I was wrong. And, I'm going to go ahead and give myself half credit for that one. Yeah. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay, good. Why don't you give me your first hit it this week? Who do we need to start, Frankie?
John, I am looking at Jamal Williams as my hit it this week. This big, buff, crazy dude he basically wears his heart on his sleeve, man. He's the heart and soul of this Lions team. And you saw it in HBO. You saw it on Hard Knocks. John, with Swift taking potentially a back seat, nursing some of the injuries that he has, maybe missing up to 2 weeks, he's a slam dunk. This is a top 5. How wild is this to say? Detroit Lions are a top 5 offense and a top 3 scoring offense. Okay. They are playing against a bad Seattle team. And again, I just mentioned it. He had 20 rushes for 87 yards, 2 touchdowns against a Vikings team. So, John, looking at the Seattle game, they are home. They are pumped up and they are ready to rock and roll. I am hitting the hell out of Jamal Williams, and I'm firing him up, baby.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. All right, let's get to my first hit it. I am going to talk about Ramondre Stevenson. Now, this is how you go back and forth, and you got to stay water, because I said before, do not start Damian Harris or Ramondre because they were in a 3-headed monster. Ty Montgomery was part of that. He got hurt. He's gone. It's back to a 50-50, which actually is a 60-40. Ramondre Stevenson got 62% of the snaps in each of the last 2 weeks. So he's out there more often than Damian Harris. It's probably because the team isn't doing so well. If they were blowing teams out, they'd have Damian Harris in there running the clock out. But Ramondre Stevenson needs to be involved. He's faster. He's younger. He's much more of a pass catcher out of the backfield. Last week he had 12 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown, and he was 4 for 5 with 28 receiving yards. They play Green Bay at Green Bay this week. Green Bay's beatable on the ground. It's a very good defense, but you can run the ball on those guys. He's getting designed passing plays. That's what I like. These aren't just dumps and, third reads and get rid of the ball. They're designing plays, wheel routes and nines and stuff for him, which is fantastic. The Packers are favored by 11 with the news with Mac Jones going down. They're not expecting the the Patriots to be able to do a whole lot there. He's going to get a lot of passing work from Brian Hoyer. You got a backup quarterback coming in, a journeyman. He's going to be looking for a safety valve. They're going to be coming from behind. I think Ramondre Stevenson's a slam dunk here. I think you could put him as your wide receiver 2 or flex very comfortably.
Running back 2, John.
Running back 2. Yeah, running back 2. My bad. All right, Frankie, who's your next guy?
So, John, I'm going to go with, for my next guy here, I'm going to go with the running back again that I've talked about to no end, and it's Khalil Herbert here. With him playing at the Giants, we just saw what Tony Pollard and Zeke did with the Dallas Cowboys having over 180 total rushing yards. I mean, this guy had almost 180 rushing yards himself last week. So I really think that he's going to get the bulk of the carries. He's going to be able to really show what he's about. John, the other thing that really hasn't been talked about at all, this guy was a favorite of the OC and the new coaching staff here. I mean, early on, David Montgomery, they were nervous on how he was going to gel with kind of these new offensive schemes, and they were leaning towards Herbert. And now that it kind of fell into their lap, and I hate to say it like that because Montgomery was performing very well for the most part, with him going down, he really has an opportunity to level the playing field a bit. So, John, I'm all in on Khalil Herbert this week against the Giants, and we're going to see what happens here.
Yeah, I think he's a slam dunk play. I agree 100% with you, man. All right, let's get to my last hit it here. And Frankie, this graphic you got just makes me so happy. There he is. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. There, he was my champion last year. He's my crush. He's my man crush. Look at him. It's DK Metcalf, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. So anytime you've heard me on the podcast talk about wanting to lick his chest and stomach, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that. It's delicious. It looks delicious.
It looks fake, but it's not. It's weird. I'm like, it's incredible.
Like, Johnny, do you have any reason why you want to start him, or is it just the picture? It's literally just the picture. He's goddamn gorgeous. All right, so DK Metcalf is at Detroit. Now, he's had a slow start. I've not been high on him at all this year. I've said I cannot start him yet. Now I can start him, and the reason why is because he's doubled his targets from the first 2 weeks. He's been getting 4, 5, 6 targets. He got 12 targets last week against Atlanta. He was 5 for 64 with a touchdown. He had 15 points last week. And watching that game, Geno Smith looks pretty good, actually. He's a serviceable quarterback. He's really dialing in on DK. I think he sees him as kind of a safe target, the big target. I think they're kind of changing their offensive scheme a tad, and it definitely looks like they're trying to run it through DK Metcalf, which is great against a Detroit defense indoors. I'll take it all day long. All right, man. Let's look at. Can I just leave DK up there? Is that okay? Can we just look at his beautiful body? God, I got to take it off. I'm starting to get aroused. Jesus.
Woo!
I know. All right, let's look at our quit-its this week. These are guys we do not think you should be starting in your starting lineup this week. Let's look at last week. Last week, Frankie, your quit-its were Travis Etienne with 9 points and Josh Jacobs with 11 points. I had Darnell Mooney with 3 points and Tom Brady with 13 points versus Green Bay. So, we were kind of right. You didn't really want to start that. You didn't feel good about playing those guys.
Yeah.
Frankie, who is your first quit-it this week?
John, my first quit-it is actually really easy. And I say that because it's Carson Wentz. And what he showed the first few weeks, it was phenomenal. And what he was able to do, he also played very bad defenses starting off. And so when we saw him finally play against Philly, it was a train wreck. I mean, it was bad, dude. He was 25 for 43, 211 yards, no touchdowns, and a lost fumble. And so now they're playing a defense in Dallas who has arguably even a better offensive or defensive front. And now you have Micah Parsons coming at you full speed, who honestly is making an argument for defensive player of the year. And so, yeah, man, I'm quitting on Carson Wentz this week. I just don't believe it against this Dallas D.
Okay, he's coming back down to earth. All right, my first quit-it, it's going to be J.K. Dobbins. And I know everybody's sitting on him, excited that he's playing, wanting to get him back in your lineup for a very running, heavy offense with the Baltimore Ravens. He's playing Buffalo this week, guys. I don't like it. He's 43% of the snaps. They're easing him back in. He only had 7 carries for 23 yards and 2 catches. So he's on a snap count. It's just not time yet. Let him get healthy. Give him some more time. On my notes here, I just have Buffalo defense in bold letters right there. I mean, that's really what you have to say. Yes, they were vulnerable and they got beat by Miami, but nobody's run on them. No one has run on them yet.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen. So for this week, J.K. Dobbins, you need to sit down a little bit and wait for a better matchup and get healthy. All right, Frankie, who do you have next for your quit-it?
John, I'm going back to the well here. Quit it. And I'm actually going to double down on this. And it's going to be Josh Jacobs at Tennessee this week. Last week he had, 19 rushes, which is fantastic, but he's only getting 69 yards. And that was against a banged up Cardinals defense, man. So, with Tennessee, they've been buttoning it up since Saquon, and Jacobs hasn't even been, it isn't even that close to Saquon in terms of a talent perspective. So I just think we're going to see a lot of passing out of the 0-3 Raiders, which is shocking to say. And I just really think, man, that against this Tennessee defense at Tennessee, they're looking for a turnaround as well. So I'm going to quit Josh Jacobs on this week.
All right. Sounds good. I am quitting DJ Moore. DJ Moore, he's dead to me at this point. I don't see why you would start him at this point. He's got 0 upside. His floor is 0 as well. They're playing Arizona, and Arizona's a very beatable defense. There's no question about that. But I can't play DJ Moore until I see something else. He's the wide receiver 61 right now through 3 weeks.
Awful.
It's terrible. 6 targets in each of the last 3 games. With 3 catches, 1 catch last week. 6 targets, you're thinking that's not terrible, but for a wide receiver 1, you want him in double-digit targets. And not only that, these are Baker Mayfield targets. He's only catching half of these, So it's a Baker Mayfield problem. It's a DJ Moore problem. Could be a coaching problem, but I don't like it. And for me, I'm sorry, if I've got DJ Moore, I'm punting his ass like Baxter off the fucking bridge.
But soon, with a simple act of littering, everyone's life would change forever.
Oh, Baxter, you are my little gentleman. I'll take you to foggy London town because you are what, my little gentleman? This burrito is delicious, but it is filling.
a Batman.
I can't play the whole clip because it's just too long, but it's great, man. I'm punting his ass off the damn thing. He's gone, man. All right, Frankie. Let's see here. We got our quits. You got our quits. There we go. Let's get to, oh, God, get your damn dancing shoes out, baby. Yeah, you know what time it is. Let's get to some Flex Appeal. Oh, God, that makes me laugh every time.
It's so good.
All right, so last week, let's see how we did with our Flex Appeal. Frankie, it was okay. It wasn't bad.
Rough.
You had Rashad Bateman was your flex guy, 5 points. You had Kareem Hunt as your flex with 9 points. Mine were pretty damn good, not going to lie.
Yeah,
I'm going to toot my own horn here a little bit. Christian Kirk, 16 points at the Chargers, and Amari Cooper, go Brownies, 20 points versus Pittsburgh. You got to love that.
Love it.
All right, Frankie, talk to me about a Flex Appeal guy that you like this week.
I am going with Devonta Smith, man. And I know what we talked about right earlier. Yes, I panicked week 1, but I shouldn't have. And here's why, John. He's had 19 targets since week 1. By the way, that's 2 weeks. So almost 10 targets every week from week 2 and week 3. Guys, he had, again, 8 receptions, 169 yards, and a touch or 2 touchdowns, or excuse me, 1 touchdown. And then on top of it, he's playing against a team that has been putting up some points in the Jags. So with Devonta Smith playing the Jags, they're going to need to keep pace, which is crazy to even say that. So I really think Devonta Smith, guys, if you have him, play him with confidence this week against the Jacksonville defense.
All right. My first Flex Appeal guy is going to be Chris Olave. Chris Olave, wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. They play at home with Minnesota. OHIO, baby.
Love it.
Chris Olave is the wide receiver 22 for the season right now. How about that? He is a wide receiver 2. 13 targets in each of the last 2 weeks. He got 20 points, man, last week. 80 yards in week 2 receiving, 147 yards in week 3 receiving. Listen, he's getting involved. Juice has been hurt. He's also he's going to be hurt. We've seen this in Cleveland as well with Jarvis Landry. Olave's taking the job. He's going to have it. He's going to be very, very involved. Every week he's gotten more involved. He is fast as shit, and he's going to be the deep target for Jameis Winston moving forward. He's going to get a couple of these big bombs down the sidelines and really have some monster weeks here. So I love Chris Olave this week against Minnesota at home. All right, Frankie, who else you got here in your Flex Appeal?
John, I'm going to reach way into the bag here. I'm going to go with the guy, Greg Dortch.
Dortch.
Greg Dortch. Who's that? I don't know. He plays at Carolina, guys. I'll tell you, he is on the Cardinals as a receiver. And the crazy part about this is that in week 2, he had 4 receptions, 55 yards, and a touchdown. And last week against the Rams, he had 9 receptions, 10 targets, 80 yards, 17 points, John. This guy just continues to find opportunity with Moore being hurt, D-Hop being out on suspension. There's no longer Christian Kirk there. Somebody else needs to step up outside of Marquise Brown, and we're starting to see it. We are seeing Greg D, Big D here, playing. And so he's playing at Carolina. Love the matchup. I definitely think it's a little bit sketchy, but here's what's interesting, John. One other quick call out. Sterling Shepard, Richie James, Chris Olave. All of them have the same thing in common, which is double-digit fantasy plays when they played against Carolina. And so with Greg Dortch coming into play, I like the matchup. Lock him in for my flex play of the week.
Okay. My last and final Flex Appeal here is going to be the best and most talented running back for the Dallas Cowboys. That's right. Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, I feel you can absolutely start him with confidence in the flex, even as your RB2 if you need to do that. He's playing against Washington at home this week. Tony Pollard's the running back 24 right now. Tony Pollard is an RB2. So how about that? Snap percentage in the last 3 weeks here have been 55%, 39%, 44%. He's on the field a lot. So, he's one of the reasons I think Zeke is struggling as well. Tony Pollard just looks better. He's more explosive. He passes the eye test. Zeke just seems kind of trotting along, and Pollard gets in there and it looks like a fucking lightning bolt goes through the line. I think the coaches know that as well. 13 touches in each of the last 2 weeks. You got to love that. 105 yards rushing without a catch last week. So he's just the better, more explosive back. I want Tony Pollard on my team. Zeke can get booted off the fucking bridge with Baxter as well. All right, Frankie, let's play our little rapid fire game again, huh?
Ooh,
what do you think about that?
Let's do it.
Let's do a little would you rather.
Would you rather poke a stick up in your eye or eat a bag of shit? Sit up on a pineapple or throw it on her dick? I said, would you rather?
All right, so let's do some rapid fire would you rather. Frankie has not even seen these guys. I just want a quick explanation as to why you're picking the guy, and I'm just going to throw a bunch of guys at you. Let's start with some running backs here, Frankie. Let's go Chase Edmonds at Cincinnati or Rashad Penny at Detroit.
Ooh, that's a really good one. I am going to go with Chase Edmonds at Cincinnati Thursday night.
All right, tell me why.
So the reason being, John, is because, and very quickly, I think that Kenneth Walker Jr. slowly taking into Rashad Penny and a lot of his workload. And I just think, again, it's a nice matchup against Detroit. A lot of teams that have played Detroit has put up great numbers. You look at Miles Sanders, etc. I think Chase Edmonds has a nicer floor from a receiving standpoint, and that's why I'm leaning Chase Edmonds.
All right. Kareem Hunt at Atlanta or Tony Pollard versus Washington?
This is tough. And they are very close, John. They are very close. I think Kareem is averaging something like 13 points and Tony Pollard's averaging something like 11.5. It is very close. And so I'm going to go not just based on that, but just based on my feeling, Kareem Hunt. And the reason being is I just think that the Browns are going to need to continue to utilize that 1-2 punch with that of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Tony Pollard's great. I just need to see, I know it's crazy, I just need to see one more dominant week of him and against a decent Washington front.
Okay. A.J. Dillon versus New England or Devin Singletary at Baltimore?
This one to me is actually fairly easy. And I'm going to go Devin Singletary at Baltimore, John. And after what we saw last week with Buffalo, I think they found their running back. And I think after he had his breakout game. And so what we've seen from Baltimore early on, they're actually struggling a little bit from a running back perspective, playing against opposite running backs who are good at receiving. And so that's where I think Devin Singletary takes the cake.
Okay, well, Devin Singletary at Baltimore or Kareem Hunt at Atlanta?
I'm actually going to go Devin Singletary. I'm going to go Devin Singletary just from a volume perspective. I think Nick Chubb is obviously going to out-snap Kareem Hunt.
All right, well, let's keep in these same guys here. With Tony Pollard versus Washington or Chase Edmonds at Cincinnati?
I'm going to go Tony Pollard against Washington. I like his upside a little bit more than I do like Chase Edmonds.
All right, well, let's test it here. Tony Pollard versus Washington or A.J. Dillon versus New England?
That's tough. That's a tough one. I'm going to go hot take Tony Pollard versus Washington over A.J. Dillon. And A.J. Dillon's been solid, man. But it's just with Aaron Jones there, it's just not my, there's just still a block. It's like a mental block for me, maybe. But I'm leaning Tony Pollard.
All right, let's get to some receivers here. Juju Smith-Schuster at Tampa Bay or Brandon Cooks at the Chargers?
This is the week Brandon Cooks is going to come out. This is the week with all the injuries happening with the Chargers.
I think so, too.
After they got torched by the Jags, I just think that I trust Brandon Cooks because of the target share that he's getting over Juju against a very good defense. So even though Brandon hasn't been performing, I'm still going with you this week, man.
All right, let's stay with the Brandons here. Nothing against Joe Biden. Let's go, Brandon. Brandon Ayuk versus the Rams or Gabe Davis at Baltimore.
Ooh, this is real interesting. I'm going to go Gabe Davis at Baltimore. I think the Bills are pissed. I think they're upset about the way that game ended against Miami. They had that game in the bag and they fumbled it. I'm going to go Gabe Davis, and I think he's going to be bringing the heat at Baltimore.
All right, I know you love this guy. How about Rashad Bateman versus Buffalo or Jerry Jeudy at Las Vegas?
Man, John, I know it's crazy to say this, man. I'm going to go back to the well, and I'm going to probably punch my fucking self in the face, but I'm going to go Rashad Bateman versus Buffalo. I think they're going to need to take care, really, like, in order for the Ravens to be competitive in this, John, they're going to need to throw the ball. They're going to need to leverage Lamar, not just on the ground. And the thing is, that's actually what's been killing the Bills. With Tre'Davious White being out, their safeties both being out, they had to start, a complete defensive backfield last week that had 3 combined starts in the NFL. And so I know they're going to be a little more healthy this week, but still, with that being said, I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman.
All right. I like it. Nice work. All right, man, let's finish up here with some crossing streams.
We'll cross the streams.
Excuse me, Egon. You said crossing the streams was bad.
Cross the streams.
It's the streams. All right, Frankie, why don't you give us a quarterback, tight end, and a defense that you like on the streaming this week?
Sure. So, guys, for the quarterback this week, again, I'm going to go deep into the bag here, and I'm going to go Geno Smith. Geno Smith is playing against Detroit at home. What we have seen for teams that have played against Detroit is the quarterbacks have performed very, very well. It has been a shootout in almost every single game that Detroit has played this year so far. And so I also think with Detroit, John, with their pass-heavy offense right now, a top 5 offense through 3 weeks, Geno Smith's going to need to keep up with them. So in order to do that, they need to throw the ball. So that's why I like Geno Smith this week. He could get you upwards of 17 to roughly 25 points is what I'm projecting.
All right. I like that. That's a bold move. That takes takes some stones to start Geno Smith on your team. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
and throwing a DK Metcalf, man. Just want to, so bad. I love it so much. Hang on. There it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. God, look at that. What do I have to do to get my body to look like that? I mean, probably get 20 years younger and work out every damn day and be a track star and football player. All right.
Yeah, fine. No big deal. Those aren't hard things. Yeah.
No, I can do it. I've got time. All right. Who do you have for tight end here, buddy?
So, John, I'm really high on this guy. He's actually been the number 3 tight end all the way through the first 3 weeks, and he's still on the waiver for most leagues. Tyler Conklin at Pittsburgh. Guys, pick up Tyler Conklin.
Frankie, what team does Tyler Conklin play for?
Guys, he plays for the New York Jets.
I can't believe there's that much fantasy value on the Jets right now. The Jets, the Lions. How about it?
Philly. I mean, I know we assumed Philly, but to be that good, that many players,
right?
It's impressive, man.
Yeah.
So, John, the defense here. The last thing I wanted to say was Cardinals D at Carolina. I would be interested in streaming that team or that defense. And the reason being is because Carolina's just been a dumpster fire outside of really Christian McCaffrey, who's been, he's back-to-back 100-yard games, and which is great. But Baker has not been that guy, and their offense has really been, puttering. Puttering, is that a word?
Puttering?
Sputtering?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Pissing around. They have not done very well. So I'm okay with streaming the Cardinals D this week, man.
All right. Sounds good. All right, man. Hey, that is the show for this week. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for putting up with the strange environment and surround. I'm in a hotel again.
Yeah, where are you at this week, man?
I don't even fucking know anymore, man. Where am I right now? I'm in Hartford, Connecticut.
Wow. Look
On
at
some
you.
janky ass Wi-Fi. It's almost 11 o'clock at night. We're recording this podcast. I mean,
That's right.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, man. I love doing it. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube at Frankly Fantasy Football. And you can send us messages on Twitter at Frankly Fantasy F. Hey, man, we got to get our shit together this week. I need to have a much better week than I did last week. My teams are okay. I'm fine. I'm not in freak out mode. I'm not,
Everything's fine. I'm fine.
I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. But I do have to talk to my guys. I need to have a little pep talk and get everybody fucking going here because we got to step it up here, man.
Yep.
I want to thank Anthony Sestone from the band Plume. He does our some of our theme music and bumpers and intros to some of our segments. I want to thank Liam Hickey. He helps us with producing, editing the podcast. Frankie, I want to thank you because, God damn it, next to DK Metcalf, I love you. I do.
I love you.
But I love that more, man. God damn it. Look at that.
For those
It's so sexy.
those that are listening, Johnny continues to keep pulling up this DK Metcalf picture that you have to watch on YouTube. It's honestly like ridiculous how jacked this guy is.
I don't care. Don't judge me. Don't you judge me. This is 2022. I can love who I want to love, man. And I love DK Metcalf. He's not even that great anymore in football. It's just I love him as a man, as a
Greek
human.
God.
As a creature. Yeah, as a Greek god. All right, brother. I love you so much, Frankie. Namaste.
Namaste.
May the fantasy gods smile upon you.